Does anybody care about vintage Magic? Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie. Today we're going to talk a little bit about collecting and a little bit about the future of Magic the Gathering. And it's been no surprise to anybody. I guess maybe it's been a surprise to some people, but it's been a big thought to anybody that the current state of Magic the Gathering, people just don't really care about vintage cards, about collecting the old stuff, the stuff that maybe you and I thought was gonna always be the bread and butter, the chase, the collectible thing for Magic the Gathering. But we're in this world now where you've got SpongeBob. Dude, the amount of people asking me about the SpongeBob secret lair is insane. It's absolutely wild. I have Pokemon collectors being like, hey man, when can I pre-order the new SpongeBob Magic set? And I'm like, dude, it's secret lair. I don't have that. It's, you go to the website like I do, we buy it together. The number of people interested in the universes beyond type of thing from outside the Magic the Gathering ecosystem has really changed collectability. I'm gonna put that in a little quotes, air quotes, has really changed collectability in Magic the Gathering. Today, your biggest chase cards, your biggest things that people are talking about are the big foil, the fracture foil, the anime borderless confetti foil, smothering tithes. The big cards like that are what's driving a lot of the market and a lot of the pulls. I mean, look at Wilds of Eldraine. One of the reasons that box is doing so well is because of those big variant versions. It doesn't even have to be serialized. It just has to be a unique version that is hard to pull, that also is eye-catching. And we're really seeing that the average Magic consumer would rather have some sort of flashy version card than some of the stuff that you and I may have gotten excited about from the last 10, 15, 20 years. Even looking at like revised dual lands and that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of people I talk to who rather have a flashy version of Rhystic Study than they would a dual land. And maybe they don't even have any vintage cards. And I think that across the board, we're seeing this also happening in Pokemon. Right now, the biggest thing is pulling and chasing the modern 10s, the graded modern 10s. And that's a big deal in Pokemon. And meanwhile, you've got the vintage cards that are just kind of flatlined. And are people really interested in it? And does it really exist? Do people really want it? So today I'm going to give you guys my perspective. Keep in mind that my perspective is very biased. My collection is mostly vintage Magic, mostly vintage Pokemon. I am a boomer. I do collect the modern stuff too. Not as much with Magic, but with Pokemon I do have like the modern collecting going on as well, not in as big of a way as the vintage. But I think that eventually there will be another shift. To me, true collectability is things that stand the test of time, things that can't be recreated and reproduced. Something like an anime borderless smothering tithe confetti foil. That is a card that, in my opinion, has a lot of downside risk and not a ton of upside potential. It's one of those cards that if you really, really love it to flex your commander deck, that's great, that's awesome. But from a collectability, safety storage place to put some money, that's just not a thing that I would do. You can all of a sudden have a much flashier, much better version of a Smothering Tithe. You can put a new card out there that people want more, and all of a sudden, we saw this with the Soul Ring, the Masterpiece Soul Ring from Kaladesh. It was a huge card, a really expensive card, and then they printed a better version, a flashier version. Eventually they'll do a Marvel version, a Lord of the Rings version. That's what actually drove it down. And so that drives the price down of these masterpiece cards. And that's essentially what these big chase cards are these masterpiece cards that can get reprinted, that will get reprinted, that will get flashier versions, better art versions, better whatever versions. And so it drives the price down on the other ones. That's not to say that if you love it, you shouldn't buy it. Like that, at the end of the day, for me, my philosophy, I've been like this on the channel for 5 years now, 4 years now. If you love something, you should buy it. You shouldn't buy something unless you love it. I love vintage Magic boxes. This Prophecy box, I don't care if this box is worth 10 times as much as it is today in 5 years. It will still most likely be sitting back here. It's just a cool thing to have. I think it's so cool to have a booster box that is that old, 7th edition. I think it is so cool to have something that is that old and unique and special. To me, like, the value of the thing doesn't matter. I don't want it to lose value. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't want to lose money, but I'd have to sell it for it to lose money anyway. And I think the big thing with cards is, if you're going to put it in your deck, you're going to enjoy it, you're going to play with it, that's great. But there's also this other avenue of things, which is like, what is the smarter purchase? What is the thing that can allow you to then sell something in the future if there's something better that you want? For me, the vintage stuff, I still feel like it has a less downside risk, and the upside potential might not be, you know, a 10x because something gets bought out, but it might be, you know, over the course of the next 6 months, 6 years, whatever, you have this kind of gradual increase in value as more and more people come into the hobby. And this is the catalyst that I believe exists for both vintage Pokemon and vintage Magic, is that the more and more people that continually come into the hobby, there's not going to be more copies of a reserveless Magic card. There's not going to be more copies of a base set Charizard. They don't make those. You can't make more of them. You can't make a flashier, better version of a revised dual land. I guess you could reprint the reserveless. If that happens, who knows what happens? I don't know. I don't want to get into that conversation. But you can make the Charizard again, but you can't make the original Charizard again. And so when people come into the hobby, either one of those, eventually they start looking and saying, hey, I want to make my deck better. Here's some reserveless cards, you know, that will make your deck better, put you up on the next level for your play group. That kind of inevitably happens as people get engaged in the hobby more. And I still believe that that's happening with vintage. I still believe that eventually the people who got into the hobby, that get into the hobby with a new Marvel, you know, let's say Spider-Man comes out, you hop into the game and you're excited, or Final Fantasy Commander decks come in, and eventually those people, if they engage and stick with the hobby, they will want these cards that are iconic Magic the Gathering cards. That's the question. Does Final Fantasy addiction and connection turn somebody into a Magic the Gathering fan? And then all of a sudden, do they want to engage with the lore and the history of Magic the Gathering? If that happens, I think vintage is going to be completely safe, completely fine. And again, if you ask that question, do I really want to own it? The answer is yes, then it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. It just doesn't even matter. So the big things for me, you can't reprint it, you can't make another one. And then the new age of people are coming into the hobby to collect those things, and eventually will want some of that stuff. At the end of the day, I think that the big thing with vintage is making sure that you have authentic cards. Condition really matters. And if we do see a drop in the market that we're seeing, this was actually the video I was going to make today, I decided not to do it, but we do see a drop in the market that we're potentially about to see with the way that crypto is going in the stock market. Usually TCGs kind of trail behind. I think that's the opportunity to start looking at creating better condition versions of your cards, picking up stuff that you've always wanted, that, you know, is on a fire sale. If vintage hasn't gone up at all with the collectible market boom that's been happening, then certainly it can drop quite significantly when the market bottom falls out, whenever it does. So those are my thoughts on vintage and collecting, and the difference between modern and vintage and that kind of stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I hope you have yourself a fantastic day. Hop into the Discord server over at KitchenTableTCG.com if you want to hang out, discuss all these things, trade cards, do that kind of thing. I appreciate you. Be kind to the people around you. We'll see you again next video.